What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up to all the difference makers out there? Another fantastic episode for you. So I've got my brother, Kevin Suboski, on the episode today. And, you know, I can't find a lot of guys that are like me in the sense of who in the market that we like to work with, and in the sense that we like to work with those solopreneurs that are just starting their business or growing and they're by themselves. And we also like working with the businesses that are scaling. And so whenever I get with this guy, we just jam out and have these incredible conversations, and we're so aligned with a lot of things. I'm super, super excited. So this is an awesome episode for you to listen to if you're a solopreneur or if you're scaling your business in putting your leadership team together and systems and processes to continue to grow and get better. So I'm super excited to dive in, learn some of Kevin's story, and talk about what he's doing now. So Kevin Suboski, coming to us from South Padre Island,
Texas. Yes, indeed.
Man,
I'm a Michigan boy, but spending the winter down south.
That's amazing. So you just hopped in the RV and went down there hanging out?
Well, it's kind of a long story. It deserves its own episode a little bit, Jason. I've been in my RV for 2 years. So early on in the pandemic, winter was coming up. They were going to shut down Michigan. A whole bunch of stuff happened in my personal and professional life that made it so like, oh, I could just leave. And I couldn't find a reason not to. And I always wanted to travel. My kids are of an age so that they don't really need me in Michigan, although I feel like they do. So it's like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life, kind of a thing. And so, yeah, it's been 2 years on in my RV. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. And for me, that's the dream of, like, when the kids are, when my son's out of the nest, and, because I'm doing that same kind of work too, where we can do it virtually. We don't have to be in that physical location. And most of the time I'm not meeting up with my clients anyway. We're doing something virtual. And so you can hop in and just go anywhere. It's awesome. So I'm living vicariously through you right now.
Yeah, cool. A lot of people are, a lot of people say that's my dream, and it never was mine. It was always my dream to be location independent and go where I wanted to when I wanted to, but I never thought about an RV permanently, or like for that long. And so it is a lot of fun, but I will tell you that no matter where you go, there you are. And so, so whatever it is that you're bringing with you, that's really the story,
Ooh, that's some good stuff. Like the introspective thought as you're by yourself in the RV.
One of my friends, I went around asking people, I'm like, am I crazy? Should I do this? And one of my friends said, it's profound, the kind of things that you will learn traveling by yourself. Cause I'm by myself. And that was pretty bold. I had just broken up with my girlfriend, and it was like, oh, I'm solo. So yeah, being on your own, and that's a real thing. It's like to have that much sort of control and time with what you really want to do. And like, it's been very interesting, that aspect of it. No doubt. I've learned a lot more about myself. I've really sort of organized more around what I want, and what works for me, and what is that anyway. So
that's so huge. Like, what is that anyways?
That's huge. Yeah. It's huge. As you know, that's a big part of my business, working with the solopreneur piece. With the bigger companies, we use EOS, and they talk about their purpose, cause, and passion. But they kind of are settled to a certain degree. They're 80% of the way there. A lot of the solopreneurs, a lot of us have never been in a place where we are really in the question deeply about, like, oh yeah, well, what do I want? If I can make this anything I want, what would it be? Because we've been trained so much to not do that. And part of the reason I did this too is because I've been working with solopreneurs for 4 years, telling them this stuff. And then I'm like, well, wait a second. I've got this opportunity. What's the brilliant life for Kevin? And it's like, yeah, it includes something like this. So shut up and, do your dream, man. Don't do someone else's dream.
Yes. That is so key. I love, because I spotted something else in this conversation, which seems like, I don't want to say meaningless, but we're talking about you in this RV and, and just kind of like the intro of the conversation, but there's so much
Yeah.
in the introspective of this conversation. And I'm glad you pointed that piece out, but you said something of like being by yourself.
Yeah.
And we talk about the solopreneurs and you start this business and you're by yourself, and there's so much you learn from that process.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and it's a very interesting question because, there's some interesting research that I've been paying attention to, right? So they say longevity. One of the keys to longevity is like having a lot of close friends. And then I can't remember where the research comes out, but there are certain people that actually they do better without people. You know what I mean? It's like, so there's like, if as you're building your business, the reality is like it's your thing, and how to make it work for you. Nobody can tell you. I can't tell you, right? So when I'm working with clients, it's like I can't get in there. I'm reading the crumbs, watching their body language, trying to uncover what's in there. But there's only one person that knows whether I'm right when I say, you know what, you should do this. And so you got to do that internal work. You are on your own in terms of what do I want. But being a solopreneur without a network of help is insane because, I tell people all the time, it's like, if you started your own business, you're probably pretty smart. You got a lot of good ideas in there. Problem is you got a lot of crazy ones too, and you don't know the difference. We don't know the difference. They all look great to us,
They look great. When I started, Kevin, I was like, I'm going to invent a CRM. And I had this business coach who's like, dude, you don't want to invent a CRM. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of money. And there's a lot of people that have already done that. And they're pretty far ahead of where you're at. And I was like, no, but I think.
I think that's going to be my new example of crazy ideas. And people said, like, I knew this guy who started his business. He was going to create a CRM. Do you believe that?
If we can still get so easily distracted, and we're in this point, I'm talking about the sales process, and I'm like, a CRM, to me, it's the spinal cord, it's the backbone of the sales process, right? And then I'm looking at these different ones that are out there, and I'm like, nothing fits, so like, I'm going to build one. I'm just like, and then I'm so off of where my mission and my purpose and focus is at, right? And it's so easy to go down that rabbit hole.
And where you find flow, do you really find flow in software development? My guess is not, maybe.
No, not at all.
And so, you're, and the reality is most of us that have started the business, we're what in EOS world we call the visionary, right? And so there's a difference between the CEO and the COO. There's the visionary and the integrator. And it's one of the most important things that I learned, powerful things that I learned in my work with EOS is the difference between those people. And so as the visionary, we live in the land of possibilities.
Yes.
Like no other. We're dreamers. We see opportunity and possibility everywhere. And so
others may not see that possibility and opportunity, but we see it.
Well, and it's tough too, isn't it? Because most of the really great ideas sounded pretty stupid to that first person's friends.
Yes.
So it's a difficult thing to navigate, but so really what I think is, it's this process of really, being able to sort of get outside yourself, learn how to ground assessments with data, recognize how much of how you're feeling is just because of that's the feeling of it, getting good at challenging your own ideas and always being open and always listening to what other people say with the anticipation that what they're going to say is going, and that you won't hear it because the stuff that's most important we can't hear because we're so gripped. And so it is this balance between like having the confidence in you, a grounded confidence, but the strength or arrogance, I'm not sure which, to be able to like hear people's advice and say, I got you, I hear you. It's not for me. No, thank you.
Oh my God. It's such a fine line because there is, and I find myself in this conundrum all the time of preaching to people, listen to your resources, listen to your market, but then don't listen to them. And like, how do you walk through like people you work with through that? Because that's such a difficult one.
Yeah. And it's tough. I had a coach, I've always been very open, and it's part of my sort of a defining feature. I'm just really curious about new ideas. And so when somebody says, hey, you want this? And I'm always like, I assume they know more than I do. That's sort of my,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
basis. It's like somebody's talking to me. It's like, finally, somebody that knows this. I've been like flailing around for years, and this person clearly knows what they're talking about. Um, and I had a teacher that was teaching us that, at some point in your career, you have to stop listening to people because it's a distraction, right? And so then it
Mm-hmm.
becomes so I studied in California this program, studying biology, especially neurology, philosophy, and linguistics. And so we talked about grounding assessments and and so what I got good at was grounding someone else's capacity or skill at grounding their assessments. And so when someone tells me something, how do you know whether you should listen to them or not? You're
Yeah.
paying attention to how they came to that conclusion, and was it and so that's part of what I'm like assessing when I'm listening to that. And generally, this and paying attention to, like, have they been on the journey that I've been on yet? Have they seen the
Mm-hmm.
things that I've seen? So because so many people aren't in business and will tell you, I, or anybody else that's in business exactly what to do, and they're clueless. They don't know they're clueless. They haven't walked, and that's one of those things.
Yep.
The minute you become the CEO of your first company, you're like, oh crap, what did I do? It's like all of a sudden the world becomes a different place, and nobody can know what that's like. And so,
And there's a lot of gurus out there as well
yeah,
that
yeah,
sell certain messages and programs, and they can spend you could invest in different programs that put you in a rut because you get conflicting
yes.
messages and you're spinning yourself out.
Yeah, yeah. So I just went through a recent iteration of this, and I've noticed this throughout my career. Is like when you start in a business, you start hiring people. So my first accountant was not very good, but my third accountant was really good because you don't know what to look for. You don't know what to
Yeah.
look for, and so my recent one was like I became determined to be competent and maybe masterful at digital marketing. And so I've hired a couple of people, and like when you first meet them, it's like sweet, and then as you get to know them, it's like, man, they're not very good at this, and you don't know what they missed until you've been in it for a while. And yeah, so one of the things that I did is when I reset up my Facebook account because I was doing Facebook ads.
Uh-huh.
And Russell Brunson tells you, and I love Russell Brunson, so I listen to whatever he says almost. Russell Brunson says, so set up your account, friend all of the people that have a similar offer in the marketplace. So now when I go into that account, Facebook, I'm hearing people like myself, and it's a cacophony, and it drives me nuts because they're nuts.
Yeah.
they're all
Yes.
they're all there's such a variety of, and I have such great compassion for people when they listen to me and are not compelled by my obviously awesome offer, because we have grounded skepticism in the marketplace, because we have, there are a good deal of like just plain old charlatans that are excellent marketers but not
Yep.
very good practitioners, right? And
Yes.
so that's
Yes.
a skill. And then there are people who are really good in some domain. They don't mean, but they don't know how to teach it, or they're teaching everybody as though they were a particular kind of person. It's
Mm.
tough. It's
Yes.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah. I just had a guy at a coaching session with a gentleman, and this is really awesome because this guy he was one of my sales guys when I was a sales director, and so now we're working. He has this purpose and passion that he's been called to, and
Nice.
a long story short, we're talking about it's kind of very similar to what you're doing, but it's for autistic professionals,
Nice.
and kind of bringing these together, these groups, right,
Yeah.
in mentorships and helping people overcome the social cues and the professional side. Anyways, he was talking about he doesn't want to be that one size fits all. He's like, my biggest concern about getting in this industry or doing this thing is like being that one size fits all, or being like, I've got to have all the wise words. He's like, I want to
Mm.
create a community in
Yeah.
where we're all supporting each other. I'm not necessarily the end all be all solution. I may have some
Nice.
answers and I may have some resources, but that may not work for you. It's all about being customized because we all have our own fingerprint. We all
Yeah.
have our own. He's like, for me, I'm very extroverted. That's on the very unlikely and very rare for an autistic person,
Mm.
so.
Mm.
But as he's describing this, being empathetic and coaching and having an open mind and understanding that everybody's different, it's like, if your concern is that you don't want to be against that, then you need to do this right now because you are the empathetic, you are the right coach, you're what the industry needs. Because he was talking about paying other coaches that he's tried to pay himself that were more, you need to do this because I do this, and you need to do this because I do this. And he was like, I felt like I paid for this guy's opinion versus coaching me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough differentiator because I mean, I do group programs. I used to do a lot of one-on-one coaching, and now I do mostly group stuff because a lot of what I'm involved in is invention. So it's like business design, strategy, and process design for your business. So it's an inventive practice versus a lot of like, so I think of it as on the entrepreneurial leadership innovation side of the spectrum, not on the business and management and mechanics side of the spectrum that I work on. And so, because like in standard business, there are like answers, you know what I mean? If you're going to do taxes, do your taxes, listen to your CPA. He has the answers,
Yeah.
But if you're going to design your business, nobody has that answer. But there are structures, thought processes, there are ways to think about it, there are systems to engage yourself in. And so that's the stuff that I've accumulated over my life. That's the stuff that I've fascinated with, So when someone's in this situation, here's how you move from here to there. And then so I throw it out. So if you're going to design your business, it should be in alignment with your heart and soul. It's like, a full stop. I had one guy, challenge me on that. It's like, no. A lot of people think, no, I want to make money. And it's like, yes. And the best way to make money is to be passionate about what you do, bring great value to people. And that's how you make the most money. And so if you want to make the most money, quit thinking about the money and start thinking about how you can be the most value to the people that you care about the most in the way that matters the most. And so I think I talked myself in a circle there.
No, but you talked yourself in a great circle because this is we were talking about earlier. How do you stay away from all the noise, right? How do you stay away from like what is the right path? How do you stay away from trying to create a CRM? And it's remembering what your core values and who you are as a company, what your passion, purpose is, what the whole point of this is in the first place. The problem is most solopreneurs don't do that work in the beginning. And so it's so easy to be pulled in different directions, or it's so easy to listen to the criticism and think you've got to change up and do something else. So you think you're so far off the track. And that's why it's so valuable to be able to sit down with someone like yourself and in your groups and hammer this out and understand who am I, who is my business, what is my purpose and passion. Because if you have that compass, if you understand who you are, if someone comes along and says, Kevin, I have a deal, I think you can make CRMs. Right. You're like, hard pass. It's not my, it's not my thing. It's not it's not in my lane.
Yeah. So there are these like fundamental things about business, right? That so to me, that's a fundamental. It isn't the answers for somebody, but so if somebody tells you, here's a path to go on, here's a thought process, try it out. But when somebody says, this is what you should do, it's like, that's not my job in a way. I might throw out, this is what, as I'm watching you, this is what I'll do this all the time. I'm watching you, I'm listening to you, I'm hearing the voice intonation change. It doesn't sound like you like that. What it sounds like is you really like that. And they go like, I never thought about that. And so I don't have the answer, Listen, in this last session, we were working on someone's core values, and she listed out their core values, and so I'm like, what do you guys think? So her, and what do you think? And then some guys, the quiet guy says, there's nothing in there about compassion and empathy. And we're all like, wow, no. And so he caught that, you know what I mean? And so, but then it's up to her to decide. When you get a group, the reason I do a group of people is to get more possibilities to someone for them to make the decision. When I am with the group is really, here's the path for us to go down. Here are the kind of things to talk about. Here's where you go. This is what the search looks like. I have no idea what we're going to find. I usually have a little bit of an idea, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You get to facilitate this and watch kind of the magic unfold within this group.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, there's always a variety of reactions, and most people come into, so my EOS clients are very different, obviously, than my solopreneur clients, and they really live in a different reality. And so I started doing the solopreneur stuff in the context of EOS. So I was an EOS implementer out doing, referral marketing. You can finding clients, and so those clients are not out networking. So it's all about finding someone who knows them to introduce. But meanwhile, I'm meeting like everywhere I go, tons of solopreneurs, and I just love the passion and it's one of the best human dramas I think in the world. It's like, what people, the heart and soul that's in it, the authenticity, people have problems with capitalism. It's like they don't work with the people that I do. They want to make a difference. They're determined. They see pain and suffering, and they want it to stop, and they feel like they have an obligation to do that. And so I'm talking to all these guys and saying, well, EOS is really for companies with leadership teams, and you don't have that, so it's not. So I'm like, I can't really do anything for you, and I hated that. So I created a program for them, right? To those ones that want to get into the point where they have a leadership team, because I consult a lot more with those solopreneurs. When I find someone that's got a company with a leadership team, I am humble enough to know that the best thing I can do for them is to get them to implement EOS, because that will just box them into a corner where they will get exceptional, and they will get to a place where their business runs well. I used to say this thing to everybody. It's like, my passion is to help entrepreneurs live their wildest dreams. And I would say that to solopreneurs, and they would just kind of roll their eyes, because they're like, dude, I don't know whether I'm going to survive. Shut up. And
about living my dreams. Yeah, exactly. Get out of here with that noise.
Living your wildest dreams is my thing. And so the reality is, when people get to a leadership team and they implement EOS and they get that really good leadership team, it starts to become real, man. Those guys are living their wildest dreams. That's possible in a way I've
seen it happen from a leadership team on the inside of that EOS. I've watched this climb and watching it happen.
Yeah. And so what I know for those solopreneurs then is that, this key milestone along the way is to get a leadership team. Because once you get a leadership team, man, it's a different game. It's a different game. And implement EOS. And then let's talk about your wildest dreams, 3 years from now. And so, but I said all that in the context of some question you had or something about the solopreneurs, because I wanted to make that clear. That
being by themselves, and then we were also talking about the kind of that compass of understanding why they're in business, that purpose, that passion.
Yeah. So I started working with the solopreneurs and just watching, what they needed, and when I started, most solopreneurs, their biggest issue is they don't have enough money, right? And so they need new clients.
Yes.
And so they say they have a sales issue, and sometimes they do, but a lot of times the solopreneurs know the customer. And so they can close a high percentage of the business. I think sometimes a lot higher than like a professional salesperson in an organization, because you're the founder, this stuff. So you always get better, especially with Jason's help. But what they really need a lot of times is more leads. So their marketing isn't working. And so how do you get the marketing to work? Well, you've got to design your business. It's not about the words that you choose. It's about actually designing a business. Because I started this as a CirrusNet member, watching everybody do their elevator pitches. And I do this for a living. And so it's hard sometimes to hear.
To
and
watch
I
it go
help.
down.
Yeah. And so ultimately, I'm like, I want to help you guys. And so what they think, we all struggle with elevator pitches, right? And so people think that it's an issue with the word choice. And what they don't realize is it's actually not word choice that they're doing while they're talking to somebody. They are reinventing their business depending upon the listener that they speak to. And if you're doing that in your business, so listen, triangulating that person that you're talking to, about how can I say this so that they'll want to buy from me? That's if you're doing that, it's like the worst path forward. You got to dial it in. You got to dial it in around who you love and what you want to help them with. And then once you've defined the business crisply, that says, this is my business. I'm not going to change my business depending upon what you are. If you want to join me, come on. I can, maybe I can help you. But anyway, so that was sort of the genesis of the fastest route and growing a brilliant business.
And that's just being confident through your process. And I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs or solopreneurs that are like, when I'm pressing them through their process, they're like, well, this is when it's most effective, but I skip this part most of the time because people don't want to take the time or whatever the case may be. And it's having the confidence to say, listen, there's a proven process for a reason. This is the most crucial part. If we skip over this, I can't even work with you.
Yeah. And this is actually the context that I went in that long rambling story, which is there's always this outcome, a third, kind of. A third, they're transformed, they're lit up, they're running. They're running to the next thing because they've been given permission to go in the direction that serves them, which is weird in our culture. We don't allow that. They've gotten the feedback from everybody to actually figure out what that is, and they start to feel it. It's like, oh my God, I'm moving that way, and this is fun. This is nice, and they are just off. A third of them, didn't. Whenever you go into a program, I mean, there's homework and there's a process, like you said, and if they don't follow the process, by the time they get to the end, they go like, oh, that all makes great sense to me. I'm like moving. So they have tools to move forward with, and have changed their business, and that shapes how they go forward. And then sometimes like a third of those people have radically changed. Like I had one guy quit his business because he saw that wasn't going to be, and to me, that's still a great outcome. It's really,
Absolutely.
how many years did I save this guy going down a dead end? And that,
Absolutely.
that's joyful. Yeah. So you got to follow the process, because I have seen this and I watch them at the end. I'm at the end and I just had conversations with two of them and they're going boom, boom, boom. And then I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing, all this stuff that they're saying, gosh, I should do this. We're all in this like place. Gosh, I should do this. Gosh, I should do this. All of a sudden they're like,
boom,
they did it.
It's getting done.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's fun to watch.
I was to say, how exciting is that to watch?
Oh, it's so exciting. So exciting, because it's, and they earn it, and so it's like, and it's such an honorable thing, because they really at the heart of it. And what we talk about all the time is like, it's really serving people. And so they're often running to serve more people. And I'm like, that feels awesome. So
it's empowering the empowerers.
Yeah. I used to call it adding a lever to a lever. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's like you got the entrepreneurs are a lever to move society, and here I'm a lever on a lever, and that's like what a privilege to be, and I sit in these conversations with these guys, and I'm so grateful to be participating in this, deep human interest story. Their heart's on the line, and it means so much to them, and they're so authentic and honest, and then to watch them, progress. Yeah, cool.
Well, especially in we've talked about this, but thinking about what happens if they don't succeed, there's a huge, I think of the word, there's a huge difference in the energy from making it, from figuring it out, having that energy, being on fire, going and doing the things to closing up shop, going back and getting a job. I've seen some of these people that their just souls are crushed and they feel like failures, right? And then to not only are they failures at business and they're not meant to do business, but then they're doing something that they don't like doing, that they most likely just force themselves in a job because they needed money.
Yeah, that's so I mean, I have a kind of an odd story or different story. I don't know how odd it is, but I grew an IT business to 30 people. And so great success. I mean, I was really determined to be the best CEO I could be, studying, get coaches, and the numbers were good. Customers loved us. Employees felt comfortable. It was a real success, except I found I didn't love the work anymore. I didn't really feel a connection to my clients, know? And so I went down this path that I'm encouraging people to avoid, which is like, yeah, I was successful, man. I was, and it sucked. I hated it. It was killing me. I mean, literally killing me. I mean, I was getting sick and sick and sick. And so I ditched it. And so, I mean, it's a funny thing. And so like I made a determination. I said, I'm going to love my work. I said, and I got to that point, and I said, I'll spend all of the stuff that I've accumulated, and I ended up doing that to get to the point where I love my work. And so, to be able to like help people make it through that. And I got to tell you, so I've been doing this a long time, working with entrepreneurs. and there's a long learning curve with this. And there have been several times where I'm like, man, I should pack it in. I should, like, I've done interviews looking for the work, and
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, I've been able to stick with it and stick with it. And I keep getting more and more success. And now, the first level of that success is I do love my work. You know what I mean? So
So
that was
key.
the path that I was
Absolutely.
on. I do love my work. And that has been an engine for me to do a lot of the things to be successful in business that I don't want to do. I don't want to do digital marketing. I don't want to do social media. But you know what? So there are all these things. We all have this list of things that you don't want to do. And so it gives you that. And so as much as, like, it sucks and I want to be able to prevent people from having to do that, the fear of that is very motivational. And to me, some people say, should I go into business? And part of what I tell them is, like, you're asking the wrong question in a way. It's like, because I don't, if you should go into business if you have to, because if you don't know that, so most of us that are doing this, it's like,
Yeah.
it's kind of not that we have a choice.
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I mean? I don't know
no,
whether you
I didn't
ever
have a
feel that.
choice.
It's like, no, I mean, it's like, I can't be me. I just can't be me.
Yeah.
I can't live the life that will fit me or suit me and do that. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a visionary. I am that. And if you don't have the calling, I was a part of a business plan competition. I assigned coaches for 10 years. And so it's like 300 people, 300 teams in the spring, 150 in the fall. And I assigned coaches to them. And so I got to see all these people, and I got to hear the coach's interpretation of all of them. And so I would pay attention. I would ask people, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And some people, not mostly, some people would say, I want to make a lot of money.
Yep.
Those guys were never at the next one. And so
Never.
most people came
Yeah.
to the next, so
Huh.
they disappeared. They disappeared quickly. The people that are saying, I want to do this for money, because it's a bad gig. It's bad design. If you want to do it for the money, stay an employee. That's just, straight up
Yes.
math and statistics. It's like, don't, and then some people said, this one worked, but it wasn't the most compelling. The next one was, I don't want to have a boss anymore. I want to do what I want to do. They didn't like, so there's that, like, leave
Yep.
me alone.
Yep.
And then
I want to do what I want.
I want to do what I want. And the third
There's a
one
big
is
learning
kind of
lesson of those people, though, over time. They end up learning that what they wanted to do
Oh
was
yeah,
the wrong way.
because now you've just got double the customers, right? Now you've got or double the bosses. You used to have just one boss. Now you've got all of those customers, and you've got employees, and they're all your boss, sucker. You know what I mean? So it's like. But the best thing that, like, this is the thing that allowed people to stick with it for years, to get the funding,
Yeah.
to blow it up, to really make it. And what they would say is, like, so there's this problem in the world, their version of whatever this generic story is, like, there's a problem in the world. These people are suffering. What they're doing for that, right? It doesn't work. I know what to do to help them. I can't just sit back and watch. I've got to go out and I got to do something to help them. That is the thing that is behind entrepreneurship. That's the thing that's behind what matters in
Yep.
business. That's
Yep.
what brings success in business. And so, those people that occasionally get to the point where it's like, oh my God, I got to get a job. I tell people that's therapeutic when they think of that. It's like, do it, look for a job. Because every
Yep.
time I do it, I go do it and I look at the job and I'm like, I had these interview with these guys and they're talking about what they do with their customers. And I'm like, you do that? I'm like, that's gross. You know what I mean? I could never do that. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
and so it's like, no, I'm like, I'll be homeless and, like, figuring out how to appear like I have a home, hey, can I borrow your phone? I got to make a business call before, you know what I mean? So, because it's like, they were going to pay me to do this, help business owners this way. And it's like, dude, that doesn't help.
That doesn't
Been there.
help. Oh.
I've done that. And you're going to take their money because you have a story that allows them to believe you. And I've seen it fail over and over and over again. It's like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
No, that's
So we got to help
hurts.
those. Yeah. So we got to help those people, that, that sad story when they didn't stick it out. Right. There's a phrase that I've been doing lately that's really helped me. And I summarize it as, like, I'm going to win or learn. And so
Yes.
I'm just in this, like, story for life. It's like, okay, whatever I'm going to do, it's hard. And I get intimidated because it may not work. I'm going to do it wrong, whatever. But I'm going to say, well, I'm either going to win, get what I want out of that situation, or I'll be determined to learn from it so that the next time I do it. And so then it's like, I'm going to be at cause for learning. So I'm going to do one of two things. Never going to lose, because I'm either going to win or I'm going to learn. And that learning is preparing me for the next win. So that's just, and that's the entrepreneur. That's like that's the mindset of entrepreneurs.
It's the mindset you have to have. And also, did you ever see Pee-wee's Playhouse back in the day? My brother loved Pee-wee's Playhouse. So they used to have like the word of the day, and like all of a sudden everybody would like throw confetti and make a big deal. If I had confetti right now, Kevin, I'd be throwing it and we'd be all cheering, because that is like a repeated phrase that I say on this show quite a bit. So anybody that's a regular listener probably smiled when you said that. It's winning or learning. And I actually I learned it from a guy who I had as a guest on here, and I told him for the first time that I had a big mantra in my life was something that I learned from him. He was coaching my son in football, and he just said this: we're either winning or learning in life. And it was like, that makes so much sense. Like, most of the time, what's crazy is we get the biggest success from our failures. We learn the most from our failures.
My IT business, I started and within the first 4 years, I made money every month, continuously made more money, hired people, and it was terrifying. I had no idea what I was doing right. I felt like this great relief when things started to fall apart a little bit, because it was like, now that made sense to me. How can everything work? That was terrible. And I've learned, you don't learn anything. It's like, you can't, and so, so that winner learn thing reminded me of, entrepreneurs were eternal optimists in spite of all available data.
Yes.
And so, real entrepreneurs really are just eternal optimists. And it's just, and I've been like, certain times it's like, I don't know how many times, yes, I'm going to work. Yeah. and then every time I do that, I think, I'm grateful, because my mom reminds me, about all the many times I was like so close to radical success. I think you've said this before, honey. It's like,
it's something I hear a lot, but it's one of those things like, and that's why we end up finding the success, because we have that internal hope, and we create it, because we create what our minds are thinking about, right? And I've had so many conversations lately with entrepreneurs that have said, I'm that close. I can feel it. I'm that close. And there's so many times that I've said, oh my God, I can feel it. I'm so close. I'm so close. I'm so close. Oh my God. And we have to have that optimism. It's funny you said, like, I didn't choose this. I had a guy asked me last week. He's like, how do you know? What was the sign that you had that you had to go start your business, or you had to be an entrepreneur? I'm like, this thought wouldn't leave my head. There was a problem in the market. Sales to me was so easy, but everybody was making it so hard. Leadership to me was so easy, in the sense of like, it's about people. It's about listening to people, solving the problems, right? And there's so many easy elements to it, but we make it so hard. And I saw all these businesses going out of business for it. I'm like, there's a problem in the marketplace. And this voice just I had all the reasons in the world to be happy with my job. I had all the empowerment. I could do whatever I wanted. My boss let me do whatever I wanted. However, I was miserable every single day with it. That voice was not going away. I didn't choose it. It wouldn't leave me alone.
Yeah. Have you read Driven yet?
No.
So any of you entrepreneurs out here, you got to just find it right now, download it. So if you are a visionary entrepreneur, and so that situation that you speak of, when they say driven in the book, that's what that means. I heard it first as like driven, like you're a workaholic, and I've never been a workaholic. And so, but I have been, but I am this persistent, obsessive compulsive kind of like, what's going on with it? How do I fix it? How do I tweak? Oh, that didn't work. How do I, I have a never ending supply of like things to try. It's like, turns out there's a genetic basis for that they've uncovered. And so, that whole thing of like I didn't pick it, it picked me. It's like, no, you're genetically predisposed to be an entrepreneur. And the thing about it is like, so that genetic basis is very ancient. It goes back to hunter-gatherer, so the hunters, but then we went into agrarian. So that was a pretty predominant sort of genetic makeup, but we became more agrarian. And so we became farmers. And so our sort of genetic platform became a smaller percentage of the population. And now we're like 1 out of 20. And so we entrepreneurs are nuts. We're nutty. We're visionaries. We're weird. I have to struggle with my EOS clients because people are so pissed off at the visionary so often. I'm like, look, dude, yeah, I know he's frustrating, but you can't make the frustrating pieces go away and have him be brilliant in the way that just changed all of your
Absolutely.
lives fundamentally. You
The
can't have
difference is
one
in the
without the other.
quirkiness. The difference
Yeah.
is in that. Yes.
Yeah. And so, we have this capacity. And so all of you who are entrepreneurs, buy this book, because this is what it's going to tell you. All of us have, this, we are what moves the world forward, right? We are what brings new things in the world. But we
Yep.
are, and so we can be in a position, of great success. And we're really represented really well in those, like the really super, let's say, financially successful people in the world. But we also have a high degree of getting off the rails and being a horrible train wreck. And so the difference between those, is a few set of practices, some mindset difference. And the book goes into that. How do you keep the train on the tracks and not go, so entrepreneurs have a very high level of addiction, a very high level of like ADHD. There's just a lot of people, they don't channel that energy well. And we're the weird ones in the culture. They're normal, we're weird. And so they look at us like, what's wrong with you sometimes? And and we've got to look at that and say, we are different.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible asset. And yes, it comes with some challenges that if you don't manage them, could be a big problem for you and everyone you love.
But you bring up so many good points. One, that most of these people, their family doesn't understand them.
No.
I've had clients where their wife is, or their spouse is like, "Where's the person I married? And can you just go back and get that job you had when we met? Like, why are you doing this? You're crazy." Or their parents don't get them, and and it's one of those things. They want what's best for their loved one or their spouse or their family, and they see this incredibly reckless behavior. They don't understand,
Right.
because we understand it. And so we talk about being alone. Like, it's hard to overcome our own self limitations, our own imposter syndrome. And then everybody in the world is telling us, you're going to fail.
Yeah. So absurd, isn't it? That we get anything done.
How do you
at all.
overcome that if you don't have other people around you?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a big part of, one of the things that they talk about in Driven is as a tool set, is a thing that I'm in the process of forming my own, called a wolf pack. So if you get like driven animals, so hunters, wolves, they're in packs. They're different. They behave than herd animals. They behave differently than herd animals. And so, for instance, if you're fighting, this animal, and one of your comrades gets sort of beat down, and all the wolves go at it and they go into it, right? So if you're a Navy SEAL, if one of your guys down, you go in and grab them. You go into the firefight and pull them out.
Yep.
Right. That's a nature. If in a herd, if the tiger comes out and gets somebody and drags them down, starts eating them, everybody else runs away. And that's the norm. And so this is one of the things that the driven, entrepreneurs, we don't give up. We don't give up on people. We don't give up on things. And so there's one of the big emotional struggles for people like us, is that, they've lived a life where they've dug in and everybody else leaves them, right? Because they're herd animals. So there's trouble and they leave. And so what they suggest is like creating your own little wolf pack of people who are similarly, genetically predisposed, are all like in it with them, right? Because how do you do it without other people, especially, and there are answers to that question, I think, and there's so many offers in the marketplace. I just talked to a guy, he was just talking about how much he's struggling, and he's got in this bad position. Somebody asked him, and I felt this, so what are the things that you're grateful for? And he went into this long tirade about basically nothing. And I know that feeling where he's like, what are you grateful for? It's like, nothing. And it's like, seriously, come on, you're wearing pants. Imagine if you didn't have pants.
You woke up today. Yeah.
You woke up today. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, there's plenty. But he was like in that. And I said, so, talked to him in a minute. And I said, are you a part of any peer group? And he said, no. And it's like, that's kind of crazy to me. I've been doing this long enough, done a lot of peer groups, EOS. I did peer groups of CEOs for years, and I do it with the solopreneurs, and the power either you can build your own, right? Just get some friends and meet once a month over coffee. But those people that don't do it, they're destined for failure, I'm afraid.
Yes.
So one of the
Yes.
things in the business plan competition, when you talk to investors, they say we don't bet on the horse, we bet on the jockey. Yet what we were assessing was the business plan, and this struck me as absurd the longer I was in it. It's like, well, why aren't we assessing the jockey? Nobody's assessing the jockey. So I came up with an award, the Spirit of Entrepreneurship Award. And the thought was, well, maybe, this business may or may not be great. I don't know. But you, sir, you're gonna crush it. And so, what is it about you? And so I had and I had criteria. So I got the other coaches to nominate people. And so I had to come up with criteria. And I came up with the 5 skills of entrepreneurship. And the first one and the most powerful is coachability, which is weird because the reason you're an entrepreneur is you see something differently. Yeah. But if you're not coachable, I'm telling you, you're better off getting into therapy, to get a job, yes. Get into therapy I wrote a paper, and it's this 7-page, this is how I roll, 7-page paper on coachability. And I had so many people say, this is nice, but can you simplify it? And I'm like, me? No, no, that's the story. That's complete. It's got everything in it. It's a masterpiece. Shut up and enjoy it. Because it's really, there's a lot in it. And it was usually my Hail Mary to talking to some of these people that just were uncoachable. I would give them this paper and say, here's a little bug. Maybe you'll read it, maybe you won't. But just, this will annoy you maybe at least for 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at least piss you off. The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
Yeah, totally. Very good. Did you make that up, or is that a quote?
It's a rap song lyric.
Oh, okay. That's truth right there. Yeah.
I did put it in like a little picture quote thing though one time, and it got a lot of people loved it.
But
it's true. Totally. It pisses you off. You can that person will listen to that and be like, "What's he saying?"
Yeah, I had a teacher. So we studied in that course in California. We studied ontology, and so ontology is how we see the world through distinctions. It's a linguistic way that we see the world. So we studied ontology, and I had a teacher that said this, and it makes total sense. It's like, so when you're struggling with something, the right answer will seem wrong to you. The distinctions with which you see the world will have you look at that advice as being incorrect, because how you see the world is producing the results that you get, but it is how you see the world. And so, and if the advice is recognizable and you can process it, then you would have done it already. If you're struggling with something for a period of time, not everything that seems wrong, obviously, is correct, but the thing that will set you free will look wrong, almost like law of physics, right? So we have an ontology to see the world. This is what we know of the world. Somebody comes in, we're struggling with something. They come in and say, this is really a much better way to think about it, the better thing to do. It's contrary to what you're doing. The good advice is contrary to what you're doing. And so therefore it will seem wrong, which is tough, which is why I think you've just got to really assess the person that's giving you the advice. That's why I assess their competence at grounding and assessment, assessing their competence at grounding and assessment. So they're sharing with me because most people are no good at that. Most people, we're not very thoughtful about our advice. We just say our opinions, but some people are deeply thoughtful and thought it through A to B.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and again, are people just giving you advice and they don't know anything about your business? They don't know anything about you. It's like I talked about this the other day in SiriusNet, like here's your sales advice. Here's the top 5 ways to overcome an objection. Just kind of like a blanket statement, versus well, what's going on? Why do you think they said that? How do you know they thought that? Just kind of diving in a little bit and understanding the situation. I couldn't tell somebody somebody asked me the other day, how do I overcome this objection? I don't know. I need to know more information. I can't overcome that information, that objection without understanding the full situation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I'll tell people it's like I'm not the answer guy. I'm the question guy. You know what I mean? I don't
Yes.
have, I mean, it's pretty rarely that I have the answers, but I have the questions you should consider, and maybe together we can come up with a good answer. But I just had a client say, I'm doing these two clients and they're very different, and this is making a lot of money and I'm not sure what to do. And so I asked her, I said, so what do you want? What do you want out of the business? She said, I don't know. So what do you want out of life? It's like, good question. Good questions, Kevin. And it's like,
Yeah.
so if I don't know what you want out of the business, if I don't know what you want out of
What you
your
want out of
life, there
life.
is no way to
There's no
answer
way to
that
get.
question.
How do you get
There's no
there?
object. There is no objective. They want the textbook answer. So I got an MBA.
Yeah.
MBA is worthless. It's like, if you want to be a mid-level manager in a big company, get an MBA. But to understand, so there isn't what's the correct answer? They want the canonical answer, from the expert. What's the thing to do? And it's like, no, it depends. It depends. What do you want? What outcome do you want? Let's design, because I'm going to help you design the outcome you want. We could have it like design
Yeah.
the easy approach. So I can tell you the easy way, but it'll give you bad results. Want
Oh.
that one?
People are in such a hurry to get somewhere and they don't know where they're going.
I think of
Like
that
that's
all the
like
time. Yeah.
wanting to go
Yeah.
on vacation, but Kevin, I don't know where I want to go. How do I
Yeah.
begin
Want
to
to come with
plan
me?
how to get there? Yeah, I want to come with
And that's the thing. It's like we're all leaders. And
Yeah.
so this is like, so I have a course, an online course called Planning a Brilliant Life, because to me, it's like, look, if you're a leader, and I've been in this situation where you're leading a bunch of people and you don't know where you're going, it's a little scary, a little unnerving. But a
Jump
lot of
and
people are
follow
like
me.
that.
We're going
Right.
streaking
And
through
so
the
it's like,
quad. Yeah.
it's like, I'm going on vacation. Where are you going? I don't know. You want to come? It's absurd anyone follows
You
us
want to
because,
come?
yeah, I mean, that's
It's like,
exactly what we're
this
doing in our
tastes horrible.
business
You
when
want a
we
bite?
don't know. I don't know. Where are you going? I don't know. You want to come? And people say yes to that in business.
Sure,
People
I'm
say
in.
yes to that. I'm in. All right. All I know. Well, so this is as far as I got. I'm going to leave the driveway and turn left. So, do you like left? Left? I mean, I got some left.
But the thing is like you could go left and it leads you somewhere cold. And you're a person that you want to be on the beach and you want to see the sun. You just drove the wrong way.
And a
100
lot of
miles an
people
hour.
just take 4 lefts.
Four
A lot
lefts.
of,
And
yeah,
then come right back in the driveway.
kind of. I used to see that all the time with like the GLEQ people, the business plan competition, because it was spring and fall and you could compete as many times as you wanted. And so we'd see them over and over again. And every time, generally, the bar was up there. But some people, it's like, yeah, that's no different. What? You just did 4 lefts. We're back at the same place and you still don't know where you're going. So, but I mean, in their defense, I got to say, because there's probably a lot of people out there that are listening that we might be dissing right now, but it's like, it's just hard.
We've all been there though.
I
can joke about it because I've been in the circle.
Right. Exactly. I take issue with me, Kevin. Like, I've been, and this is one of those things that I see recurrently in is entrepreneurs getting lost. And so in EOS, we have a thing called a weekly practice called the clarity break. Because if the leader doesn't know where they're going, that's a problem for the organization. And so I just have this recurring experience of feeling lost, like I don't know where I'm going, feeling a lack of passion with my to-dos. And I've had a lot of people, visionaries, ask me, so I'm really struggling. I need time management because I don't really, I'm not getting my stuff done. And I've come to recognize that it's like it has nothing to do with to-dos. It's they've lost track of. So it's either vision or strategy. So either they've lost track of their vision or they've changed, right? So their assessment of, would that be a great place to go, right? So we've got this image of the future. Now all of a sudden I don't want to go there. Why would you do the to-dos that is going to take you somewhere you don't want to go? That's a huge, oh my God, you can't, I'm going to be tough and I'm going to be disciplined. It's like, no, work on your vision. Or it's probably more often for me is like, sometimes, anyway, so the strategy piece, it's like, is this actually going to take me where I want to go? So we lose faith in our strategy. And so it's like, yeah, I'm going to do all this work and it's not going to work anyway. It's not going to get me to that vision. So why would I do my to-dos? And so anyway, That's just the thing that came up as we were talking. Apparently I needed to share that.
Yeah. No, well, so what would you say to somebody that maybe they've built a successful business, kind of like thinking about yourself, like you built a successful IT business. They went out and they built this business and they're having success, but they are struggling with their vision. They are struggling with their to-dos, or maybe they realize that this isn't their thing. What do you tell them? How do you make that transition?
Oh yeah. So yeah, that's a great conversation because I didn't end my business well. So I had 30 people, and I was in this place where it was like I was toast.
Yeah.
And and if I knew then what I know now, it would have been very different. And so what I would recommend is implementing EOS. So with EOS, there is this distinction between the visionary and the integrator. And what EOS does eventually is it gets to the point where you have a very strong leadership team. It used to be like if I had a breakdown, my sales guy had a breakdown, we would go and work together on it, and then we'd go. If the woman was leading fulfillment had an issue, then we would couple up and go and figure that out. HR, it'd be a team of me and them. With a good, healthy leadership team, when somebody's got an issue, they all get together. So they don't go to me, they go to each other, right? So it's so, yeah. And so when that happens, you get to this place where as the visionary, you get to stop dealing with all the firefighting. I think most people like us, when we start a business, we have this dream in the future that having a business that runs itself. And what that means for people is like a lot of the mundane stuff just happens. We don't get caught up in the breakdowns and the mundane stuff.
Day
we
to
get to
day,
stay
whirlwind stuff.
Yeah. So it's all about staying in your unique ability as the visionary. And so it's like strategy. And so for me, I was a great visionary, and I was trying to be an integrator too, because I didn't understand the distinction between the two. And the integrator piece was killing me. If I had had that taken off,
integrator piece usually kills us visionaries, kills us.
yeah, it does. Yeah. And so, if you're in that position and you've got another year in you, start implementing EOS, because that'll give you some hope. Get to the point where you've got a leadership team, say 2 years, you've got a leadership team that's functioning. You can actually do the parts of the business that you love and not do the rest of them. I've seen it over and over again. And, I wouldn't have believed that 10 years ago when I started implementing EOS, because I saw it fail on my part, and I was pretty smart, and I had coaches. I paid a lot of money to people to help me with that. And none of them did what I'm doing with my clients now. And it works to the point where if you do this well, and you just decide, I don't really even want to be a visionary, then you just hire another visionary or not. And you just become the board, the owner.
Yeah.
And so it really creates that capacity to step into a peer ownership position. So I could have done that because we were making bank. We were making a lot of money, and we just let it sort of die. And it's like, oh my God, terrible. It's like, it kills me.
Yeah.
That was a multi-million-dollar
You could have even, like, if
asset.
you put that system in place, you could have sold it.
Yes. Yep.
Because now you're selling something with a full system. You're selling a leadership team. You're selling systems and processes.
Yeah. Yes, that's the point, is that it could have kept going, or I could have had something to sell, right? And so you don't want to get so burned out that you can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I see so many people that are at that space, because when you're, I have a client right now, I'm begging him to listen to me some more, because it's like, dude, I'm afraid for you. If you're not burned out right now, you're going to be soon, because you're doing a lot of stuff. You're being a good soldier. God bless you for that. You're sucking it up, you're doing the right thing, and you're killing yourself. And you're going to get to the point where your body's going to say, no, we're not doing this anymore. And there's lots of ways that happens, but it's like, and most of them are unhealthy. And so, if I had figured that out, I could have got it to a point where it either would have served my purposes, or I could have sold it easily. But here's part of the problem. When I got to that place, business had already started to go down. So I had this business that was like this rocket ride, but I hadn't figured it out. And I was my performance as the chief sales guy or whatever in the business leader, my performance wasn't as good. I was in this
Hmm.
place where it's like, if I crush it, I'm going to get more of this stuff that I don't like. I used
Yeah.
to have these,
Yeah.
sales calls with my potential clients, and I'd look at them, I'd sit across the table from them, and think, if you buy from me, I'm going to have to talk to you a lot more. And it was like, oh, gross. And it's like, that's tough, man. There's some powerful subconscious processes that are like making you fail at that, right? It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't want that. You're pushing yourself. I'm being strong. I'm being this good man culture kind of bullshit.
Yes.
Um. Anyway, so
Being
yeah,
the good
man, it's like
soldier, doing the thing that you
being
don't
the good
want to do
soldier.
over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and as I mean, I do this a lot with people, and there's a difference, making a generalization. But when I'm asking people, tell me about, what brings you joy. What are your favorite customers? Let's not talk about target market. Let's talk about dream customer. Who do you love? Let's
Yeah.
make all of our marketing geared into who you would love to hang out with. They want invite you to dinner. You go like, sweet. You know what I mean? You want what?
Yes.
How do you? How do you identify that? And so a lot of there's just a generalized difference between men and women's responses. So women are more connected to that, and men, um, some men are sort of incapable. They spent enough of their lives paying no attention to their body and what brings them
Mm.
joy and what
Yep.
doesn't bring them joy. They don't have the muscle, they don't have the witness that look at that. And there's such deep programming about, and I
Yeah.
got this. I mean, I was in my family, and my ex was, taking the kids to school, going on trips with them, cooking, doing stuff with the neighbors, having friends over, and she adored that stuff, right? So she was living, and I kept watching. It's like, okay, so you're living your dream, and I'm glad to fund that. It's my job. I'm glad to fund it, and and I didn't realize I was hating it. I was just struggling
Yeah.
with that in my head. It's like, and I hate it because people had to tell me and said, you're miserable. I'm like, am I? I I I didn't know. I didn't know I'm
I didn't
miserable.
realize it.
And so yeah, there's just this literacy, sort of
Yeah.
meaning and purpose literacy that's we're not very good at it. And we need to have more conversation about it. We need to have increase our capacity to do it, because man, it's just so fun to watch when people catch on to it. You know what I mean? I spent
Man.
2 years, 20 hours a day, maybe a year and a half, 20 hours a day working on digital marketing because I love what I'm doing because I'm just so enamored with the work that I do with solopreneurs.
Yeah.
I hate that stuff. And I did it joyfully in a way. You know what I mean? It's like I
Yeah.
don't feel a scar from it. It didn't take me down. I was in there every day. I was like, oh, I got it. And I would be like, yes. And then we get those anyway. So
But
I
it's
rant.
remembering the why at the end of the day, right? It's
Yeah.
remembering what it's for, because we have to, as entrepreneurs, do things that we don't want to do, or that we're not the most skilled at, especially as solopreneurs that we've talked about. If you
Yeah.
don't have that team that you're delegating to, if you have a leadership team, awesome, because you're getting that stuff all off your plate. You have employees, you can, but if not, you've got to do it. And so,
Yeah.
why are you doing it?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And, I mean, this is the challenge I have with people talking about discipline. I just really, it's just such a weak distinction. Have discipline. I mean, to me, the degree to which you have to be disciplined is a breakdown in your story and your life design. Now that because if you are in love with what you're producing, you don't need some sort of external. You don't need a muscle to exercise. You just like
Yeah.
you just do it. I mean, I've just seen this so many times in my career, and I see it in other people. That whole like not getting my to-dos done. You know,
Yep.
there are periods when I don't get my to-dos done, and I don't, and I look at like how connected am I to that future that I'm moving towards, that I'm producing, manifesting on, intentionally. And if I'm not deeply connected to it, man, it's hard to do this. And then I've like repositioned. I've gotten good at this over the years. It's like it used to take me like
Yeah.
2 years, I would think, before I'd be like figure this out, refigure. Now it's like 2 weeks. It's like 2 weeks. I'm like lost. Like, oh wait, it's either vision or it's strategy or plan sometimes. But but vision and strategy, and then reconnect to it. So anyway.
Man, Kevin, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing. We'll have all your info in the show notes. We'll get it here in Capture, put it down so people can contact you.
Yeah.
Who, what, I guess to kind of end it, we've talked a lot about what's going on. Who's a good person to be in your group?
Well, so EOS, if somebody's got a leadership team and they're frustrated and they want more, they want a business that's going to run themselves. They understand the thing that they produce for customers, right? They understand the product and they love that, but they want the leadership team to actually work. EOS is a good solution. I'd love to help them. If there's somebody out there that is a solopreneur that has the ambition to grow their business, there are people who are solopreneurs that want to stay individual contributors. I can help those people. It just isn't as much help, right? So it's just not as compelling, to do the work. And so if they want to grow their business and they feel like there's something off, generally I work best with somebody who's had a couple of years, they're making money, they're just not thriving. They've tried a lot of stuff. When most people go into business, historically it doesn't really work well with people that have just gone into business, because when you've just gone into business, you think you have all the answers, and it takes a while before you figure out that you're not as brilliant in business as you are in the thing that you're doing for your customers. There's stuff to learn. And so a couple of years to have, to be open. And those are the kind of people that really take off in growing a brilliant business. Did I say that well?
That's perfect. Yeah, that's a great description. So, and again, going along with what we've talked about, I think that really sums it up. So, man, Kevin, thanks a lot. So, thanks so much coming to us all the way from South Padre Island. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the work you do, Jason. You're a good egg, man. You're one of the good ones.
Appreciate it.